as Americans, have the capacity now, as we've had in the past, to do whatever needs to be done to preserve this last and greatest bastion of freedom. In this present crisis, government is not the solution to our problem. Government is the problem.
Hi, it's Scott Lee with Freedom and Prosperity Radio. Thank you again. Another great week ahead here at Freedom and Prosperity Radio. Thank you for listening. Thanks to you affiliates. Hey, before I go any further here, I'm just going to try to dive into our program because essentially what we did last week is we visited Liberty Fest 2010. Just a bunch of phenomenal people who love liberty. And wouldn't you like to be surrounded with a lot of those folks who love free markets and free people? And that's exactly what we did. But before we go there and start playing some of those interviews for you and from those great people and great speakers, let me first thank Tertium Quids. They're our premier sponsor because they are the premier supporters of free markets and free people right here in the Commonwealth of Virginia. And they're responsible for Freedom and Prosperity Radio. Just as a reminder, before we dive in here, it is everything can be found at freedomandprosperityradio.com. That's freedomandprosperityradio.com. Now, we recorded this all live at the Convention Center in Richmond last weekend, so the recordings are sometimes iffy. There are times where it gets louder and a little background noise, but bear with us. The interviews are well worth it, and I think you'll find it just outstanding thoughts on free markets. And that's really what we want. These guys dissect it down, give you some great information. And so without any further ado, let's jump right into Liberty Fest. Live from Liberty Fest 2010. Hi, I'm Scott Lee with Freedom and Prosperity Radio. We're going to do our best this week to bring you some of the best interviews and the best people from Liberty Fest from all over the Commonwealth of Virginia. First, let me take just a second to thank our affiliates who carry our program, great affiliates across the Commonwealth. And we're doing our job here to spread freedom and prosperity. Jacob Hornberger, founder and president of the Future of Freedom Foundation. Like the name, by the way. Hey, Jacob.
Thank you. Nice to be here with you, Scott.
Good to see you, sir.
Thank you.
A couple things caught my eye here recently. One is that you are a frequent guest on Freedom Watch. And do you know Judge Natalno real well? Are you guys like buddies and hang out? And
yeah, we're ideological friends, and we get along really well. We relate well because we both share the same freedom philosophy. So it's nice to have him as a friend.
Yeah, it is. You have written recently a couple blogs that caught my eye about Cuba. What's funny about them is how are they doing things to expand freedom and restricting the size of government that we're not? Are we going the other way? They're going the right way? Am I hearing? Is that kind of what the gist of your
Yeah, well, Cuba's a fascinating case study, and it provides good lessons for Americans because, you know, in Cuba, the pride and joy of their socialist system is free health care for everyone.
Oh, right. Yeah, right.
And free education for all the school children, which, of course, the government runs. Social Security, that sounds familiar.
Yeah.
And but the interesting thing about Cubans is that they understand that's all socialism. You come over here to America, and Americans think, oh, no, that's got to be all free enterprise. Well, the Cubans have learned a valuable lesson is that, you know, this produces a lot of poverty. People are on a near starvation level under all this socialist system. So they just announced a layoff of about 500,000 people. A society where government employs about 95% of the people. And yet over here in the United States, we're moving exactly in the opposite direction, you know, trying to preserve this federal behemoth
right.
and thinking that that's the secret to prosperity is stimulus plans, bailouts, and so forth.
Right. Well, maybe Cuba will become a beacon of freedom for us. We'll go, look at that system down there. That tends to be working well. It's just backwards.
Yeah, it would be very ironic if the Cuban socialists were to lead Americans to freedom and free enterprise.
Maybe we'll be taking boats and planes down there.
Yeah, defecting to Cuba.
Defecting down there. How have you enjoyed Liberty Fest here?
Well, I just got here this morning, and so far it's just great because, you know, everybody here sort of has the same mindset and that they're trying to restore freedom to our country. They understand that a free market system is the key to a prosperous system. And that's what the direction we should be heading in this country.
You haven't run into the hate mongers yet, or people that hate children and teachers and all that? None of those people? You haven't run into those yet?
They haven't arrived yet.
They haven't arrived. Maybe they're coming. But, you know, that's the argument that we hear, essentially, constantly against, you know, the conservative philosophy, free markets and free people, is that, you know, we don't think the government ought to be in the Social Security business or you know, nationalizing banks and mortgage business. And for that, we're said, well, what about those people who can't get mortgages? What about those people who can't have, you know, the things that government supplies? And so we're often maligned, made fun of, and laughed at for a philosophy that is
essentially founding principles.
That's right, the founding principles of this country, and that's one of the most insidious aspects of the socialism that we've imported to our land. It's created this sense of dependency among the American people where they just cannot imagine life without their socialist structures. And what we really need to do is recapture the sense of self-reliance and independence that once characterized people, including voluntary charity and faith in people and faith in God rather than faith in the coercive apparatus of government.
How do you think we're doing with that? You think people are starting to wake up a little bit and say, wait a second. I mean, the greatest thing is, I think there's two things about Barack Obama. One is the negative of what he's doing, but the other thing is I think he's really put a big magnifying glass on how bad this thing has been. Not just but he put a big magnifying glass on it and said, wow, we're really doing things we shouldn't be doing, unconstitutional. Do you think that's really waking America up? Do you think Obama's good in that way?
I don't think there's any question about it. But to me, Obama's is just George Bush's third term because he's doing everything Bush was doing and the Republicans were doing. Mm-hmm. I think what's important is that people are starting to wake up to the dangers of out of control federal spending, out of control debt, taxation, hyperinflation on the horizon. They just haven't come around to the solution that it's these programs that all that money's being spent on that need to be dismantled. Not just the welfare state programs, but the military warfare state programs as well.
I'm wondering what the people on those programs are going to react. I mean, I think we've got an interesting time in our country where we're going to have people really debating on the role of the government and what people should be getting from government. It's going to be an interesting debate. I mean, we could have some serious protests in this country.
Absolutely. But that question that you just phrased really is the critical question that needs to be debated in this country. What is the rightful role of government in a free society? It's not a matter of just getting better people in public office. It's a matter of what should those people be doing once they get in public office? What is their rightful role? That's what we need to be debating.
Great philosophy to ask every politician. What do you believe is the role of government? Is there any constitutional bounds to the government? Is there enumerated powers? What are they? Does the 10th Amendment mean anything? Do states have sovereignty? Questions that should be asked of every politician and been made to ask.
Absolutely. And most of them will look at you blankly. I mean, I have
what the Pete Stark answer?
Yeah.
There's nothing the government can't do.
Right. We're here for the best interest of society and the world, and we can do whatever we want.
General welfare.
Exactly. I had a friend who used to get fundraising letters from politicians, and he would write back to letters saying, give me your statement of principles. And you never hear back from them again.
Crickets.
What's a principle?
Principle? Philosophy? What is that? I just want power.
Exactly.
And by the way, if I don't get elected in the primaries, I'll go run as an independent. I just want power. I don't care about the country. I just want power.
That's what it is. The power lusters. That's that. And Americans were concerned. That's why they were reluctant to call this government into existence with the Constitution, because they knew it would attract the power lusters. They would go beyond the enumerated powers and then move on to the Bill of Rights and start infringing on them.
They were Virginians that did that, Jacob. They were Virginians. I remember Henry going, nuh-uh, no such constitution here without a Bill of Rights. So Patrick Henry was against it. So we're in good mold with those guys.
That's true. We do come from a nice heritage.
We do indeed. Jacob, thanks for your time.
My pleasure. Thanks for having me on.
That's Jacob Hornberger, founder and president of the Future of Freedom Foundation. You want to hear this interview again? Go to freedomandprosperityradio.com.
Stay tuned to Freedom and Prosperity Radio. We'll be right back after a brief message from our sponsors.